Ah,
I think
live.
you're live.
Yes.
All right. So hello, everybody in JabuMind and Facebook land. Um, I'm really so honored today to be able to interview um, beloved UCSB faculty member and for the last 30 years or so at UCSB, UC Santa Barbara, um, and also a communications expert. And I so admire and respect him. I've known him for many, many years. In fact, as long as he's been alive, because he is my brother.
Yay.
Yay.
Hi, sis.
Hi. So Dr. Don Lubach recently moved from a position of associate dean of students after in various administration posts and giving lectures to 500 people lecture halls. And he is now in the Ombuds department at UC Santa Barbara. So, and even though you're my brother, I don't know quite how to explain what an ombuds is. So I'm going to pass the floor to you.
Good. I'm so happy to be here talking to my sis live across the universe. Aren't we going to do something with mugs? Am I so we're teachers, right? And people have mugs. So my mug is significant to me because I have coffee, not tea. And I love things that are well designed, and I love dual walled stainless and glass things because they hold in the heat. And I just love, I haven't been in the office at all. So I just popped in for this visit and also to revisit my little portable espresso machine. So that's what mine is. What about your mug, Carolyn?
I like it. Well, you know, I had a hard time choosing. I have mugs from friends and mugs from dear friends who've had to close down businesses during this COVID, and friends who I've been on wonderful trips to calm places with. So, but I decided to kind of go back to the true tea mug, thin wall, so it stays warm. And this is from my wedding trousseau or wedding gifts, and so it sits high in a cabinet, my china, and hardly ever gets used. And I thought I would pull that out. Keep
breaking out the china for your visit with your brother. I like it. Excellent. So this ombuds business, I want to cover that so that people know, especially people in the education community. We're some of the lucky ones where a lot of ombuds exists in large school districts. So for those of you who are in the K through 12 area, you might have an ombuds in your district. They're big in long-term healthcare. There's often long-term ombuds for elderly members of the community. And then universities tend to have ombuds in the United States. And our tradition goes back 1,000 years. And it originally comes from, I think, the Vikings. And I think the word ombudsman actually means representative. And the work I do at UCSB, I'm on a wonderful team. There are 3 of us, my boss, the ombuds, and then 2 associates. And we help members of the community, faculty, staff, and students, mostly by listening and listening to our colleagues when they're stuck, either stuck in a communication issue. They might be in a conflict that they need some mediation skills, and we tend to be trained as mediators. And then institutions like school districts are big and complicated. So my favorite term for ombuds is trusted navigator. So I feel like I've been at this for a year now, almost a year. Isn't that amazing? And if I'm at my best, I hope that people come to me feeling stuck. I help them face maybe something they have been avoiding, and then I can help guide them to procedures or individuals or folks that can help them get unstuck. So that's what I do all day as an ombuds.
So lots of communications going on there.
Yes.
Both before and then during this period, and to sort of lob over into, I'm sure you need to be grounded, and I've seen you step into, well, over several years now, but some really consistent mindfulness practices yourself as you do this.
I'm a giant skeptic, and things like mindfulness used to make me feel sort of squidgy, like, oh, is it science-based? Is it praying? Is it something that to me was like unprovable? But boy, along came Sam Harris, who's a public intellectual and somebody who I admire, and his mindfulness work that kind of led me into into doing an inner practice that is secular or whatever. It's not religious, but just the act of sitting still and breathing and being aware of one's surroundings is so important. In fact, you and I talked about, Sam Harris did a podcast specifically on mindfulness during a pandemic. And boy, he made a great case for those who are teachers or certainly first responders. Who do you want to respond to a crisis? You want somebody who can slow down and read a situation and not panic. Like my default is to panic, but trying to get over that through breath work and so forth. So I'm just so proud of you that you're involved in helping educators to find the way to interrupt their stress response and do this work. It's cool.
Well, and it's always been a real interest of mine, and we see study after study, and there will be a blog coming out on our website and on various social media this Friday about how those who are grounded in the classroom and other places, but even specifically in the classroom, studies have been done, which will be cited, that show grounded teachers that actually passes on to their students who are able to learn more easily. They've done this with measuring cortisol levels, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Cortisol is a brain chemical that
comes out of the adrenal gland. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, that shoots up when you're stressed. So being able to bring that down also has an effect on students. So that's what we're trying to do with our app and our that is science based.
Yeah. So cool. Well, you and I, you like to quote the science literature. When we were talking about your article coming up, I love that you make a zombie reference. And one of the things we're discovering on the campus here, and I'm discovering with my friends and family members, is this pandemic. Many of us are still in the opening scenes of a traditional zombie movie. And for those who know the formula, the protagonist usually starts out by not recognizing that the world has gone dystopian, that they're walking along. My favorite, and the first zombie movie I ever seen, I've only seen maybe 4, was Shaun of the Dead, and the lead character is walking through London to the sounds of the band The Specials, and he's so absorbed in his own world that he's missing out that all these people are zombies next to him. And I think there are still folks out there, and myself included, who just keep forgetting that this is the biggest situation that probably most of us have ever seen in our lifetime. And that really impacts our day-to-day communication, just from the way we're working, the things that we're all preoccupied with, the way the media is working. We're in it now, and it's really a struggle for many of us. I'm excited for your visitors. Those who are on the call who will read your blog post later this week, because they'll see some of the ways that we are stuck, and then get some tips for how we're going to emerge. Yeah.
Yes. And I started to say Chip, and I collaborated on this. Full disclosure, I grew up with him as Chip.
Yeah.
So, but
Chip is fine with you. You're allowed to call me Chip.
Dr. Donald.
Dr. Chip.
Dr. Chip. Okay. All right. That's it. We'll keep that. So that's all of those things that, whether they're true or not, whether we want them or not, they are true. We're communicating via, in other times, you and I might have, I would have used this as an excuse to come to Santa Barbara and sit across from you and interview you. But we're sitting here on a 2D screen rather than being in 3D together, and the visual cues help, but also the 3D can be, the 2D can be exhausting for
I think you have some links to Zoom fatigue, just looking at the flat screen, and then also looking at ourselves. So I've seen a little picture of myself on the screen now, and it's hard not to think, oh my gosh, look at that. I wish I would have brushed my hair better and stuff. So we're constantly in this incredibly self-aware, and then it's just fatiguing to look at all of these little squares. Maybe we'll just habituate to it over time, since we might be doing it for some time, but we're missing a lot. And there are class and social status ramifications of this as well. And teachers know this well. It's they see their students. Some of them might be at on their yacht doing the Zoom kind of thing, and other students are in a really difficult situation or can't even get to the bandwidth to get to class. And so that's changed a lot of communication dynamics as well. And then you and I were talking about the environment. It's so weird to be at my office at the moment. I'm normally not here at all. And it takes, years to build up your sort of routines at work. And you have your workstation just the way you'd like it, a standing desk if you're lucky to have one of those. And then suddenly we're in a different environment, and we don't have those hallway conversations that we were talking about.
Right.
And there's so much. I had no idea how much goes on in the hallway or on campuses. You just kind of get a mood as you walk down the hall, and your body. There's so much more sensations where you're picking up. Is everybody in a slump or what? And you can't. Those little adjustments are impossible to make when you're looking into a screen and you don't know what's going on. So yeah, we've been thrown into a radically different environment.
Yeah, and along with that, the brainstorming that happens. I know I read an article from a tech company saying that there was serious concern from some of the geniuses in the tech company about whether these great new inventions could come about, because we don't have that same kind of a, hey, guess what I was thinking about? We do, right. But it's different. And like you said, maybe we will habituate to it. Until then, there's some things that we can do to help. Plus, I usually
right.
wouldn't. I just thought I usually wouldn't be sitting 3 feet across from someone staring at them.
Right.
When you talk, you're a little further away. You're a little right. So. That's another part of the Zoom fatigue that happens.
Interesting. Yeah, just we're not moving around, we're not shifting our bodies in the same way that we did. Interesting. Say, when you mention innovation, I'm always the optimist. You know that my default mode is optimist. And I was in a meeting yesterday with a bunch of people, and we were using something called Jamboard, which works with the Google Suite. And people were typing little notes and moving them around, and each person's picture was following this little note around. And then my colleague was sort of organizing these notes while we were all talking. And it was maybe better than sitting in a coffee shop in many ways. So there's, and I know that there's a whole bunch of plugins that are coming with Zoom where you can do some neat stuff. I'm on the beta tester list for something called, it's one of those terrible.com names. I think it's 3 M's, an H, and 3 M's, but it's by the fellow who started Evernote. And he's putting out this thing where right now I could show a chart and I could shrink the representation of me up so I could kind of be jumping along on the chart and pointing things out, and some really creative ways that you can use Zoom. So I think, and then the other thing is, think about what it's like to live with a disability and have trouble getting to work and navigating spaces. And suddenly everybody's sort of the same, you could be using a chair and be on a Zoom call and have less ardor, or anyway, less hurdles to get to the office. Or you could be anywhere in the world now and just be joining your group. So that's, from a communication standpoint, there are a lot of things that seem very exciting to be moving forward.
That is true. That there are a lot of positives. I know several friends who would rather not have all that stimulation. We might call them introverts, although that introvert extrovert sort of definitions have morphed over time.
Yeah.
So not that there aren't positives.
Yeah.
But so some of these communication things, I know that you had mentioned something that you did with your, there are a couple of fixes or thoughts about how we can improve on things. I know you had mentioned walking on the beach with some colleagues.
Yeah, and this is a tribute to my colleague Caroline Adams, who's the ombuds for the campus. She was sensing that it was time for us to jump off the screens and actually be together as an office. So there were 4 of us at the time, a month ago or so, and we met we drove to Summerlin separately, and she bought us all a coffee, and we walked on the beach 6 feet apart, and at one point we were in a big row, all looking at the ocean and watching a dolphin swim by, and thinking, it was good to be together in nature, just to kind of recalibrate and see each other in that realm. So if you have the capacity, teachers out there, if there's a way that you can gather with your colleagues at some point, I think that's super healthy. And then the other thing that Caroline's been doing, and we've been talking about with all the constituents we work with on campus, is to not do things the same way. So what we're hearing out there is folks who are suffering have their boss has always had a Wednesday meeting for 3 hours, so 3-hour Wednesday meeting or something like that. And so now that we're in COVID times, the boss said, okay, we're having our 3-hour Wednesday meeting. Instead, it's going to be on Zoom. And I don't think a 3-hour Zoom meeting with a small group is the way to go. What I'm learning, and you probably can cite research on this, but and there's a lot of research happening on which is more communication, but in little bursts, using technologies like Zoom and other forms of teleconferencing, but also switch over to the phone for a while. We are now experimenting with Slack, which a lot of folks do. I don't know how many K through 12 educators use Slack, but it's all the rage in the business world out there, and we're playing around with it, and it's nice. We have a Slack channel, it's called. It's just for random things where I can post a photo of like the bicycle that I just acquired, and so we can have fun discussions, and then we have the administrative thread and so forth. So using some of these tools, which there are a lot of collaborative tools out there, but changing things up, and then I think we were going to go here is it's so important to have that beginner's mindset. People in the mindfulness community always talk about that beginner's mind. And I'm thinking of a surfing metaphor because our 19-year-old daughter is finally picking up surfing. I'm so proud of her. And we talked about how you just need to go a lot, and you need to be silly, and you need to keep trying every way to get into a wave and crashing and not thinking about what others are thinking about you. And I think folks who are navigating this successfully from a communication standpoint are trying different things, and they're not afraid to fail. So I'd love for people to be thinking about that. I don't know if our viewers can see this, but we just got a nice question from Terry about how will this impact the children's communications development, their friendships, and their behaviors. And that's kind of above my wheelhouse when it comes to, I can't speculate about the deep sorts of things, but I'll start as a father. I would just say when things got really unusual at our household, if there was a death in the family or something like that, I think you just have to communicate a lot, be vulnerable with your kids to let them know how you're processing things that are happening out there, and also just keep seeking guidance of others. Like I really hope that those of you who are teachers out there are getting tips from each other, from healthcare providers, if you see a therapist or something like that, but just to keep modeling resilient behavior. What do you think, Carolyn? You actually had chops.
Well, all of those things you said, also as you were saying them, I think they also would apply to teachers' communications with their students, right. along with each other. More communication in small doses. The more we see about children have a lot of brain plasticity still, but as adults, the way we seem to learn and be able to actually change our brain is by having a lot, but in consistent and in small bursts for things that we want to learn or change. So I think that all sort of blends in together. And that is actually how the JabuMind app is set up, in small, digestible, fit into a teacher's day bursts of mindfulness. So I see that we are coming to a we're all
amazing. I knew this would go quickly.
But yeah.
I hope you're not disappointed in me, sister, that I gave some good answers to all of it.
Never been anything but proud of you.
Very good.
But But yeah, that is I wasn't ever supposed to refer to you as my younger brother, at least when there were cute girls in the sorority when we were in Santa Barbara.
I guess I was just thinking about my dear friend Nick, who I'm actually going to bicycle ride with at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. And when it comes to mindfulness, Nick is the leader of our group when it comes to doing daily mindfulness practice. And we were on a bike camping trip recently, and we were at the beginning when we landed at a campground up in Bodega Bay. And all of our gear, we were taking it off the bikes. And it's kind of stressful because we're all putting our stuff together. And Nick suddenly, he just put his camping chair together and sat down and said, I'm going to do my mindfulness practice now. And because he's our leader, we all sat in a semicircle and did a 10-minute thing with Nick. And boy, that just changed the nature of the whole trip. We were less freaked out about getting our gear together and stuff. It was really, really good. So I think you're on to something, sis, with all of this. And you're helping these fantastic educators like the ones who brought us up when we were growing up in Rossmore. I'm just so
wonderful teachers.
Yeah, so grateful for all of you who are in the K through 12 community. Thank you. And if you need an ombuds, find one.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Lubach.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Talk to you later.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks.